Transmitter device activated. Coordinates set for Earth 2.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Earth 2 podcast, the podcast where we explore the pre-crisis DC Multiverse and the legacy of the Golden Age heroes throughout the Silver and Bronze Age of comics. I'm Peter Watson.
And I'm David Steele.
And today we hit the very first Justice League of America and Justice Society of America team up.
Yep. Justice League of America number 21, which went on sale in June of 1963, cover dated August 1963. Yes, so the cover of JLA number 21 is quite iconic now, isn't it?
Very iconic, yes.
So what we have is, we have the JLA consisting of Aquaman, Green Arrow, Superman, Batman, the Atom, Martian Manhunter, Wonder Woman, and Hal Jordan's Green Lantern. They're all sort of sat, it looks like they're having a seance basically. They're all sort of holding hands, sat around a table with a mounted sort of crystal ball. There's some smoke coming out of it, and amongst the smoke, we see Hawkman, Dr. Fate, Black Canary, Alan Scott's Green Lantern, Rex Tyler, yes! The Hourman, and Al Pratt, the Golden Age version of the Atom. Now, Hourman's my favourite superhero ever, so I'm delighted that we're doing a story with him and he's finally appearing. So,
excellent.
So we kick off. I'm reading from the original comic, Peter's reading from the reprint, so we're going to compare and contrast as we go.
As we know, there have been differences in the past. So
yeah.
I don't think there is really so much in this one, but
we're not going to do the strict
read-through
panel
description
that we've been doing with most of them. So we're going to
give you the highlights.
Yes.
But
there will be some pages because that deal with the JSA, and we're going to go into a bit more detail on some aspects of the story. So we kick off with the splash page, and it's the flip side of the front cover.
Yep, but most importantly, we have the very first roll call of the two teams. So the roll call, as we've said, is Atom, Aquaman, Flash, Green Arrow, Green Lantern, John Johns, they've got him down as, not Martian Manhunter, Superman, Wonder Woman, and then it says in the corner, and representing the Justice Society of America, with lots of stars around it.
Yep.
Atom, Black Canary, Dr. Fate, Flash, Green Lantern, Hawkman, Hourman.
Yes.
They've kind of squeezed Hourman at the end there.
Yep.
I think they ran out of space, so they put Hawkman and Hourman over each other.
So the caption at the top, trapped in their headquarters, imprisoned by a team of master villains, the Justice League turns to the Justice Society of America for help. In turn, the Justice Society will use the assistance of the Justice League in the strange game of turnabout in two worlds. Never before have both bands of superheroes met, but never before has there been such a crisis on Earth 1.
So
beautiful, yeah. So the splash page is the flip of the cover. It's the JSA sort of looking up at the JLA instead of the JLA looking up at the JSA. So we kick off.
We begin the story. There's a Justice League meeting. Batman's cheering, and he says that there is a challenge from an evil team of villains called the Crime Champions, comprising Kronos, Felix Faust, and Dr. Alchemy, and they basically challenge the League to take them down. Yep. So the League all do their classic splitting up to take down some of the villains, and they all dash into action.
Yep, and we see at the bottom of page 2 that the Justice Society are meeting too. So as the JLA all set off, we have a caption which says, unknown to the Justice League of America, at this same moment, a duplicate Earth occupying the same space as our own Earth. See, it's the implication that we're on the same Earth as the JLA, what we call the Earth 1 superheroes. But separated from it because it vibrates at a different speed, asterisk, editor's note, see Flash 123, Flash of Two Worlds, or the previous episode of our podcast. It vibrates at a different speed, is gathered a similar organisation, the Justice Society of America. So, they're sort of sat about, they're very comfortable, and they're certainly more comfy than the JLA's cave. And Dr. Fate is saying,
from behind his helmet,
it sure is good to be back together again in our modernised headquarters.
Yep, and Rex TikTok Tyler is saying, and to know we've been challenged to a showdown fight. So, this is the caption at the top of page 3 now. For those readers unfamiliar with the two Earths in which Barry, Flash, Allen and J. Flash Garrick operate, we point out that two objects, like our planet Earth and its duplicate, can inhabit the same space if they vibrate, as all matter does to an extent, at different speeds. By vibrating swiftly, both J. Flash and Barry Flash have been able to travel in and out of both Earths. And in this other Earth of J. Flash, the Justice Society of America is meeting after a lapse of 12 years.
And Alan Scott Green Lantern says,
ever since Vandal Savage captured some of us and we were rescued by the two Flashes, footnote, editor's note, see Flash 137, Vengeance of the Immortal Villain, Alan continues, I've looked forward to this get-together, and Black Canary says, you aren't the only one, Green Lantern. So, another caption, yes, after more than a decade of inactivity, the old Justice Society of America is meeting once again. True, there are a few grey hairs showing, and their faces are lined with the passage of time, but their mighty powers are only slightly dimmed. And then we get a series of headshots introducing Black Canary, Dr. Fate, Hourman, the Atom, Hawkman, the Flash, and Green Lantern. So,
just in case there was any doubts for any of the readers.
The Atom and Hawkman and Black Canary, Flash and Green Lantern, they were all active with the Justice Society right up to the end of the run in All-Star Comics, but Our Man had disappeared a long time before that, and Dr. Fate had vanished from the Justice Society run at issue 20 odd of All-Star Comics, something like that. It's not often talked about, but in his own strip, in More Fun, he became, a medical doctor and lost his cape and did all sorts of, really different adventures. And
also his powers are slightly different. He was got mastery over matter, which is quite
but he's basically returned almost to first principles here. And as I say, Rex disappeared very early on.
He's also got the full mask on. For a time, he only had a half helmet.
That's right.
This is the full helmet. So.
That's Dr. Fate returned by there. This is cracking, right? Line up of headshots and then Dr. Fate continues.
Since our revised bylaws call for a rotating membership of 7, we have been chosen by lot for our first case. Though they aren't here, I have congratulatory messages from Starman, Sandman, Wonder Woman, Dr. Midnight, and the others.
Which is exciting because that's the first mention of Starman and Sandman for a very long time. Because they, of course, Wonder Woman and Dr. Midnight were in Flash 137. So, Our Man continues. Now then, what's this showdown fight about? And Hawkman says,
we've been challenged by our old enemies, the Fiddler, the Wizard, and Icicle, to try and stop them as they commit a trio of $1 million robberies.
Very similar to what Felix Faust and Kronos and Dr. Alchemy have said to the JLA. So we move on to page 4. Pleased smiles break out in the faces of the old-time champions of justice, and Black Canary says, sigh, I feel younger already. And Jay says,
the Fiddler, what memories I have of him. And Alan Scott, Green Lantern, says,
and I, of my old nemesis, the Icicle.
What I love about this panel, and actually all the panels in this page, is they are just beaming. They're all smiling.
They're all smiling.
I was looking absolutely delighted at the fact they're all back in action, and, it feels so much fun that they're.
You can feel the energy in the room. So the next caption, eagerly the Super 7 leap to their feet, and Hawkman says,
Flash, Atom, shall we bring back the good old days by teaming up together?
And Black Canary says, how about it, Green Lantern? You and I had some great adventures side by side. Shall we relive them?
And Dr. Fate says to Our Man,
Our Man, it's been a long time, and I can hardly wait to get going.
Which is a nice little throw forward to issues 55 and 56 of Showcase.
Yes.
Out from their new headquarters stream the old-timers, filled with new life, eager for the matching of wits and muscles with their own crime champions. And Hawkman declares,
then why wait? We know where the Fiddler will strike.
And Alan says, and where the Wizard will show up for his crime. And Rex, the Hour Man, says, the Icicle can't make things too cold to please me.
And the lineup of the GSA in this panel kind of mirrors the lineup of the Justice League going into action in the previous page.
Yep, that's right.
Which is very cool.
So the story progresses as the Earthborn baddies leap into action. Felix Faust steals the safe from basically a sunken ocean liner. You see that he's sort of split the ocean around it, sort of open, has created a flight of stairs.
Using his magical abilities.
Leading down, and his dialogue sort of suggests as he cries, up gold, up cash, fly through the ship. Come to my hands without a slip, and you see a safe sort of emerging from a hole in the side of the boat.
Interestingly, I don't know if there's an actual crime being committed here, because it's a sunken liner. Surely that's salvage.
It does. That's a fair point.
It does mention that some divers have claimed it, but then again, if they haven't been to got it quick enough, then I think he's going to have a right.
If they've gone there and not found that, then we turn the page and Aquaman and the Atom and John Jones turn up to fight with Felix. Aquaman sets some whales and sharks on him. Felix unsplits the ocean, the Moses style sort of splitting, bringing that all back in. And Felix attacks John Jones with fire.
Because of course that's what you would do.
Of course. The Atom rescues Martian Manhunter by sort of jumping in and kicking the little fireballs out of the way. The Atom then goes for Felix Faust, who does a fade out. John Jones says, where'd he go? And Raymond, the Atom, says, your guess is as good as mine. Martian Manhunter, all I know for sure is Felix Faust eluded us as he said he would.
We cut to the next villain. It's Dr. Alchemy this time, and he is lying in wait to steal an armoured truck. Now, he'd previously been in Showcase issue 14, The Man Who Changed the Air, and he's basically got a Philosopher's Stone, which means he can transmute matter. Gardner Fox does things with him in this story that he can't really do in the Flash stories that John Brune writes. He's a lot more kind of cartoony with what he can do transforming matter. Yeah, I mean, because the first thing you see him doing here is he turns the wheels of the armoured truck, into rocks, making it stop, and then he turns the fenders into wings, so that he can fly the truck away. Yeah, which basically normally just transmutes matter. But they're having a bit more fun with it here. So, yes. Yeah. So, Superman, Green Arrow, and the Flash arrive to meet the challenge of the supercriminal. They come speeding into Central City from different directions. As the Scarlet Speedster hurtles past the road marker, an astounding change takes place. Now, this is interesting. This is setting up Barry's role for the story. What's happening to me, says Barry, I'm vibrating so swiftly, I'm being shaken apart.
And further along Route 55, Superman is challenging Dr. Alchemy, but Dr. Alchemy converts a telegraph pole and a fire hydrant to kryptonite. Why there's a fire hydrant in the middle of Route 55, I don't know. Anyway, maybe they have bushfires or what have you.
Maybe it's to help John Johns if ever goes in fire.
I suppose that's true. So Cal's sort of down and out, and then Dr. Alchemy converts the ground around Green Arrow to glue, so Ollie basically held fast, and Ollie tries to fire a stun arrow at him, and Dr. Alchemy converts the arrows into harmless weeds, as he put it. Is that sort of in line with,
that's not really, because that's organic matter. It doesn't really do that.
So the truck flies off. Green Arrow rescues Superman by firing paint over the kryptonite.
Lead-based paint, which blocks the kryptonite radiation.
Yeah, overs the paint over the fire hydrant, and so Cal recovers and he grabs Ollie, and they fly off after the truck.
In the next panel, I do want to talk about this panel because it's fantastic. You've got the truck flying off, you've got Superman flying in his usual classic Superman pose, and you've got Green Arrow standing majestically on Superman's back.
Absolutely.
Firing some arrows at the truck. It is absolutely, utterly ridiculous. And I'm putting that up in the socials, so you'll see it.
And
it's amazing.
Ollie's convinced that he's saying these arrows will stop him cold, but then Dr. Harper says, I told you I'll elude you, and I will. And basically, as Ollie's arrows almost reach it, and as Clark almost reaches to it, the truck disappears, and Oliver declares he's gone, disappeared right in front of us, and Superman says he made good his boast. He did elude us. So, we now move to Powers City. Now, I've never heard of Powers City before.
No, there's a lot of weird named cities in this that I don't think we ever see again.
Right, okay. So if you're a DC Comics writer and you're looking to reboot a possibly obscure, not used character for a long time...
If you want to bring Argus back...
Yeah, you could use Powers City. There we go. That could be a stomping ground.
If you want to bring Bing Grabber kids,
yes,
that's fine.
So it's Kronos who's in Powers City, and what he does, he uses his time powers to age the wall of a bank so that it crumbles to dust, and then Wonder Woman, Batman, and the Hal Jordan Green Lantern arrive. They have a big fight. Kronos diverts Diana's lasso, and he cuts Batman's batarang, and he fires from his sort of float. What's his
anti-gravity sundial?
Yeah,
giant anti-gravity.
Yeah,
sundial,
he fires.
Which I love.
Yeah, is that elsewhere? Does he use that?
Oh yeah, I use that all the time.
Right, okay,
yeah. That's up there with the fiddle car as one of the most impractical, supervillain getaway vehicles.
So Kronos fires a nice sort of golden mist over Green Lantern to take him out. Wonder Woman lassos Green Lantern and pulls him out of the cloud of dust, and in turn, as she's sort of pulling Hal sort of up, he creates a little basket using his power ring and catches Batman. Kronos fades out, and then we see him, as it says here, Batman is remarking, he's drifting apart as if he were no more than mist. And Green Lantern says, what happened to him? Well, what indeed has happened to Kronos, and to Felix Faust, and Dr. Alchemy. As each of them vanishes, let us follow them through space and time to an unsuspected borderland between the two Earths. On the rim of Twin Earths is a great sphere of vibratory energy. The arch-criminals come face to face with another trio of crime champions. And Dr. Alchemy is saying,
everything went as we planned it. How did you make it out on your Earth?
And we see, sat down, it's the Wizard, the Fiddler, and the Icicle. And it looks like, is that the Wizard replying? Listen. Right, yes, so here we go. So
this vibratory sphere they're in, it seems very much furnished as if it's a lovely 60s swinging bachelor pad.
It does, doesn't it?
It looks like something Flint would have.
Yeah, it looks like it's been outfitted by Carmine Infantino. I've got to say, I'm not the biggest fan of some of Mike Sikowski's artwork in this story. I mean, part one, it's not bad so far. I mean, the layouts are quite nice. Some of the later stuff in part two of the story is quite blocky, but it's interesting that he still has enough of a sort of sense to make the sphere at least look livable and nice. Yeah. So we now have a page where the three Earth 2 villains sort of recap what happened when they sort of confronted the Justice Society, whilst the JLA guys were fighting their villains in Earth 1. So we start off with the Wizard.
He does, and he says, I met my old enemies, Green Lantern and the Black Canary, defeated their every effort with the magic arts I learned in Mystic Tibet.
And we see the Wizard, it looks like he's flinging almost everything, but a variety of household goods. So he's flinging, because, Alan's proclaiming, my nemesis is wood, as the Wizard is only too well aware, so the Wizard is flinging a baseball bat and a tree and a wooden dresser and a couple of chairs and stuff at Alan.
Is that the first we've seen his weakness?
I think it is.
Yeah, because obviously the Earth 1 Green Lantern's weakness is yellow, the impurity in his ring.
Yeah.
But in the Golden Age, Alan Scott's was wood.
Yeah, because it was magic based and all that sort of stuff. So and the Wizard is firing a giant big sort of metal fan at Black Canary, and she's saying he's sending cyclonic winds at me and I can't make any headway against him. So
yes. Then we move on to the Fiddler and his recap.
Yep. The Fiddler laughs as he picks up the story. It did my heart good to come to grips with former foes like Hawkman, Flash and the Atom. It's his point of view. We see him fiddling away.
He's trapped Hawkman, Flash and the Atom with his musical notes coming intensely from his fiddle. Mm-hmm. Because Hawkman says, the intense decibels from the Fiddler's violin are ripping my wings to shreds.
Oh, goodness me.
And sure enough, The feathers are flying off his wings. Mm-hmm. And Flash is saying,
those awful vibrations shaking me up into drifting atoms. So that's kind of what happened to Barry.
yes.
Earlier, yeah.
And the Atom says, that eerie music causing a wall to fall on me.
Yeah, and he's basically getting hit with a pile of bricks.
Which is not nice.
No.
Cut now to the Icicle. He chuckles coldly and says, our man and Dr. Fate did their best, but were no match for my icy nerves.
Yep, and we see Rex encased in a giant block of ice, and he's thinking to himself, this ice block will hold me just long enough for my hour-long superpowers to fade out.
Oh no. Dr. Fate says,
My magic will melt those ice spears, but by that time, the icicle will have escaped.
Why doesn't he just use magic to knock the spheres out the way and then run after this? I don't know. Anyway, so as the three crime champions from Earth 2 conclude their recital, Felix Faust says,
the portable vibrator, don't laugh, you gave us worked perfectly, Fiddler. With them, we were able to fade away from Earth 1, vibrate ourselves at super swift speed, and to reappear here.
And the Fiddler says, it was a lucky day for me when I discovered the vibratory pitch that opens the doorway between our Earths. As you recall, the Icicle, the Wizard and I were escaping from our Earth 2 jail. It's interesting they're casually just flinging the terms Earth 1 and Earth 2 about.
This is the first story in which I think Earth 1 and Earth 2 are
Yeah.
mentioned, and the villains seem to have named Earth 1 and Earth 2
Yeah, that's interesting.
first.
Yeah, aye.
And also, the Fiddler who's discovered it first, he's naming his own world Earth 2.
Yeah. To recap that last bit then. As you recall, the Icicle, the Wizard and I were escaping from our Earth 2 jail thanks to a special violin string I made that shattered our cell bars. So we see the Fiddler with a couple of other prisoners, and one of them saying, the guards are closing in on us, Fiddler, and he says, I'll try a different string, see if the sound can stop them. I struck another note on my violin, and as it rang out, the earth around us shimmered and quivered. That's the Wizard there saying, we seem to have been shifted to another universe.
Jumping to a bit of a conclusion.
Wow.
There, Wizards, yes.
And then, the Fiddler's narration continues, then we found ourselves on a stage in Central City, asterisk, Earth 1, and there's a reader's note from the editor that says, readers of the Flash stories will be quick to understand that this is the same stage off which Barry Flash Allen vibrated into the other Earth of J. Flash Garrick. So, the Wizard, the Icicle, and the Fiddler have appeared. It looks like in the middle of a concert, and they're saying we've emerged into another Earth, rather than saying we've turned up in a concert hall somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, they can tell.
And then one of them says right in the middle of a stage show. So that's absolutely hilarious. I mean,
And the three of them are in their prison fatigues as well.
I can imagine the CW doing that and just sort of like maybe cutting to the concert, and some, whoever they've managed to get in sort of would be like, mid-line, and then and they would appear on stage. That'd
They'd
be
probably
fantastic.
have it as a John Barrowman concert.
Yeah. So, story continues on third page. Following
Chapter 3 of Crisis on Earth 1. Again, the villains are all sitting around a table talking about this, and they all look gleeful as well. Everyone's happy in this book.
it's exciting though. Team-ups and that.
Yeah.
And the caption reads, in a misty borderland between two Earths, separated by only a few degrees of vibratory speed, safe from discovery by their enemies, the Justice League and the Justice Society are gathered 6 crime champions. They chuckle over their triumphs and plan to live their lives of ease. So, Kronos, who's particularly delighted. He's saying, as you appeared on that stage in Central City, Felix Faust, Dr. Alchemy and I were about to rob the proceeds of the stage show. And Felix looks like someone there. He reminds me, it's just the heavy line. He looks like, I suppose he looks like any generic middle-aged American man of the
He looks like David Hedison or something.
Yeah. So Felix is saying, seeing you in convict garb. Right, they're telling us basically what happened after the others appeared on the stage. Seeing you in convict garb, Dr. Alchemy and I created a disturbance and rescued you, whilst Kronos grabbed the show loot. Felix continues. Then I made the 6 of us invisible with my magic and spirited us out of there so the police and the Justice League wouldn't know you had come into our Earth from yours. It was a lucky thing we did too. And then the Fiddler says, yes, your generosity to us paid handsome dividends, because now you can each take the $1 million you stole from under the noses of the Justice League and go into our Earth and spend it without fear or apprehension.
And then the Icicle continues, the trouble with being a super criminal has always been the fact that the Justice Society, or in your case Kronos, the Justice League, always catches us. In our Earth, no one knows you three. In your Earth, no one knows us.
And Felix says, unknown either to the police or your Justice Society, we can enjoy spending our loot for a change.
Dr. Alchemy says, best of all, the only 2 men who might have recognised us, the 2 Flashes, have already been disposed of.
And the Fiddler concludes in an out-of-this-world way. And so the 6 supervillains turn and smile, for nearby they see the 2 speedsters safely penned inside vibratory bubbles. And that's what we see right enough. Barry and Jay, very sketchily drawn, it must be said, and the Fiddler's pointing at them with his fiddling stick and says they ran right into vibratory traps we set up for them and were dissipated into their molecular structure and reassembled inside those small spheres. These spheres counter-vibrate to the vibratory speeds of both flashes automatically, so that no matter how fast either or both flashes vibrate to escape, their vibrations are neutralised. You understand, flashes, that we had to get rid of you because you alone know the way to travel between the two Earths, and you alone could recognise the villains of both worlds if they showed up on yours.
And Icicle says, all that remains now is for us to use the portable vibrators, don't laugh, the fiddler made, and go into each other's worlds. And Dr. Alchemy says, we're in our civilian identities, we can enjoy the fruits of our crimes without either the Justice League or the Justice Society bothering us.
Oh, they're so evil, aren't they?
Yes.
Right, so we move now on to page 18. And so it is that while Kronos, Felix Faust and Dr. Alchemy enjoy a life of ease, on Earth 2. This is because Peter has been listening to the Beatles a lot recently. And this obviously that rolled off with us. So anyway, right, so
yes.
A life of ease on Earth 2, the Fiddler, Wizard and Icicle in their civilian identities frequent the vacation resorts of Earth 1, completely safe from punishment for their crimes. Do you know what? I think that is brilliant. That's one of the best multiple Earth type thingies ever. You know, you're a baddie, I'm a baddie. Let you rob some stuff, I'll go and live in your Earth. Yeah, great. I mean, I love it. The villains are swapping Earths just to...
What if the money
amazing.
looked slightly different on the Earth? So
I know.
You'd have to,
it's kind of, yeah, it's kind of like, did you ever see that really terrible Bruce Willis film, Looper?
Yes.
And like, you know...
I saw it once years ago.
And they send people back in time with the silver and all that. And it's like, that silver's going to be there already.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of, it's like, you know... It's
that wouldn't have happened in the Pre-Crisis DC Multiverse.
Exactly. So, right, yes. And it's not long before the sight of so much wealth about them causes the crime champions from Earth 2 to itch for action now.
Now, this panel is pretty hilarious.
That must be the wizard.
Yeah.
They're all, right, it looks like the wizard's wearing a Hawaiian... He's wearing... it's the wizard.
We're going to put this up on the socials as well,
yes,
because you
he's
have
wearing
to
a
see
Hawaiian
this panel.
shirt, yes. Mm-hmm. And the wizard is saying...
how can I resist the temptation? So much money, jewels, and other valuables.
In the middle of the panel, wearing a sort of very fetching sort of red hat and a very confusing moustache and glasses, is the Icicle, and he's saying, going to waste because no one's here to take them, which leaves the fiddler to finish with, except us. I must send out a signal to my confrères, summon them to meet me in Casino Town, and the thing about this is, I can empathise. The fiddler's bald, and we see like a sort of mannequin head with his wig on it. That's fantastic.
With his long flowing white
That's
locks.
so funny. He basically looks like Lex Luthor, to be honest.
It does.
He looks a bit like me.
We'll put a picture of you up in the socials.
Yes, I'm gonna
beside a wig. Actually, I might have a wig.
Right.
Of that
Okay.
type.
Well, maybe we'll recreate that panel. Look out for that.
Cosplay
So,
opportunities
yes.
of the future.
So, in Casino Town, USA, somewhat later. Now, does that mean
There is a Casino Town as well as Power City.
instead of
and
Las Vegas? Do you think?
maybe as well as
Oh, okay. So now this is the Icicle looking far too much like
Groucho Marx.
Marx. Yeah, stereo. And he's saying, you agree then that we owe it to ourselves to rob this entire city?
And Wizard says, yes, but only by masquerading as Kronos, Felix Faust and Dr. Alchemy to protect our true identities.
And the fiddler says, I like your idea how to do our fellow crime champions a favour at the same time, Wizard.
Wizard continues, I suggest we challenge the Justice League of America to a showdown battle and get rid of them once and for all. We'll show our friends that their enemies are no match for us. We can work out traps against which Justice League members will be absolutely helpless.
Not long after, this is the caption from a crystal ball in the souvenir room, and it's obviously the crystal ball from the cover, in the secret headquarters of the Justice League, where the members meet to discuss their recent defeat, and we hear a little voice sort of emerging from it. Members of the Justice League, this is Felix Faust. Or is it? Offering you another chance to catch us. You failed once, but surely you'd like to try again. Do you know what? I'm just going to pause very quickly and say this is great. I'm really liking this. Because it's as much the villain's story at this point.
Oh yeah, definitely. They're
this
driving
is-
the plot.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
at this point, issue 21, it's JLA versus the Earth 2 villains. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the villains are getting all the good lines
Yeah.
and, doing all the stuff. And I really wish Captain Cold was in it so I could
I know you do.
do my Wentworth Miller voice.
Well, I suppose Icicle is kind of like
Yeah.
Earth 2 Captain Cold.
No, especially with that hat. He's a cool customer, literally. So, high excitement brings every member, even the late arrival Green Lantern, about the talking crystal ball.
The voice continues.
The voice
from the
continues,
vault.
yeah. We have just robbed Casino Town of its last penny. Wow. We will wait 10 minutes for you, waiting with open arms full of loot to see if you can take it away from us. And Hal Jordan cries, I've just recharged my power ring, and what's up? And when the voice fades out, Green Lantern is told of the challenge. And then Superman says, they're where they say they are all right, my telescopic vision can pick them out.
As does my Martian vision. Well, what are we waiting for? We have 10 minutes to get there, so let's go, says John Johns.
I hope they've been worrying about Barry having disappeared.
Yeah, they seem to have forgotten about that.
Yeah. Okay, so ahead of them, the wizard master of Tibetan magic has transformed himself into a duplicate of Dr. Alchemy.
And he's standing in front of a roulette wheel, dropping some chips, and he says, "Here in Casino Town, we've laid 8 traps. 2 of them are these poker chips of hard rubber and the wood wheel of a roulette table."
Interesting. I wonder if the emphasis on the wood wheel of the roulette table is some kind of foreshadowing. I don't know. Anyway. The icicle, with the aid of that Tibetan magic, is now a dead ringer for Kronos, as well as being a dead ringer for love.
Yes. As the Justice League charges in for us, we will lure them into touching these objects, and so trigger off their own doom. 3 more traps are this shower of quarters. Metal, a stuffed moose head, animal, and that pane of yellow glass.
Ah, pane of yellow glass. Interesting. And then finally, the fiddler has become Felix Faust. The last 3 hidden dooms are to be found in a jewel, some ordinary sand, and a pool of cold, clear water. When all 8 enchanted objects are touched, the magical trap will be sprung. So that's interesting. They set all this stuff up, and basically they're kind of relying on the JLA to spring them all, and then something else is going to happen. But they're waiting for them all to kind of to work at once. That's interesting.
Well, I think
the
traps are just activated as soon as one of the members touches.
No, but it's the way that it's sort of saying when all 8 enchanted objects are touched. So it's like maybe they're waiting for, like, once Hal's touched the yellow pane of glass, once so and so's touched that, once they've taken them all out, something else is going to happen. So over the next couple of pages, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern arrive for a rematch with Kronos and in Casino Town, and
who is secretly Icicle.
Yep, and Bats and Wonder Woman are taken out. Wonder Woman gets hit with a moose, and Batman gets hit by is that what the quarters from the slot machine? I take it then, yeah.
Yes.
So Hal runs into the big the big wall of yellow glass, and elsewhere in another gambling room, Superman charges at Dr. Alchemy, who's in reality the wizard, and he gets him with the hard rubber betting chips. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Bearing in mind it's magic, folks,
yes,
so
course,
that's why.
Yeah. The kind of altered wizard pretending to be Dr. Alchemy sets the roulette wheel off at Green Arrow and blocks all of his arrows, and then he gets taken out because he's touched the enchanted wood. And then Felix elsewhere, Felix Faust in inverted commas, so Felix is the disguised fiddler, and he is basically rise up, you stones, and fly about. So Arthur's basically in the corner of the patio. This is what it says. Meanwhile, as Aquaman corners Felix Faust in a corner of the patio.
It's like they're having a chat at a barbecue.
Yes, like sort of Vic Reeves. Rise up, you stones, and fly about. Toss him aside and win the bout. And Arthur's like, oh, the paving stones are, Aquaman I should say, the paving stones are rising up because of his magic, making me fall sideways. And then Arthur gets, he lands on his back in some sand. There we go, that's it.
Interestingly enough, Aquaman says out loud to himself, "You fell into sand, Aquaman. You're done for." I think maybe that word
probably
should have
gone for Felix. So the Atom flies in a wind current at full speed. And what's this? Fly fast, fly true, sapphire blue, hit atom, drop atom, this day to rue. So that's Ray taken out.
Used.
Yeah, Ray's taken out. And then Felix Faust, in inverted commas, the fiddler, fire, run from my fingernails, weaken my foe so his power fails, and he zaps John with the flames coming from his fingertips.
How do you do that?
Yeah, if it's just the fiddler disguised as Felix, why does that mean he's automatically taking on his powers?
Yeah, also like how, the Icicle can easily duplicate the Kronos' time mechanisms and everything. Unless when they swapped Earths, they left all the stuff behind.
Yeah.
But even still, flash powder or something.
Yeah, so John leaps out of the way into a swimming pool, out of the way of...
and that's the enchanted pool. Oh, that's his mistake.
Of course, that's right. By doing so, you touch water, and ends your career. So, regrouping. The Justice League members leap once more to the attack. Here they come, says Ersatz, Dr. Alchemy. At our last meeting, we disappeared in order to escape you, says fake Felix Faust. And contrary Kronos says, now it's your turn to disappear. Within an instant, the Justice Leaguers are wafted away from Casino Town to their own secret sanctuary.
So they're back in the cave.
And Green Arrow says, how did we get here?
Superman says, I think I can answer that, based on the fact there was no kryptonite anywhere in that gambling casino, and also the fact that it worked on everyone else. Mm-hmm. My only weakness is magic. Only other weakness is magic, and it was magic that defeated us here.
And Batman says, it's magic that's keeping us here. Those doors can't be budged.
Green Lantern says, my willpower isn't strong enough to get my ring to open them.
Brilliant, blimey. Superman says, yes, it's magic, all right. My telescopic vision cannot penetrate these walls.
Nor my Martian vision, says John. A mighty magical barrier has been placed around our headquarters.
And the Atom, I can't even slip through this keyhole. This means we're imprisoned here with no way out. Batman says, why not fight magic with... here's the stuff. Why not fight magic with magic? Merlin gave us this magical crystal ball as a souvenir of our adventure with the Sinister Sorcerers. Editor's note, see Justice League of America number 2, Secret of the Sinister Sorcerers. Try saying that 5 times fast. Felix Faust used it to send his voice magically into our hideout, and it works. A great idea, Batman, says Green Lantern.
Seated about the council table, the members join hands.
This must be worked like a seance, says Batman, looking very Dick Sprang in that
Yes,
panel.
absolutely,
Interesting. And then Martian Manhunter says,
concentrate. The magic inherent in the crystal ball will be focused and respond to the guidance of our combined minds.
And Green Lantern finishes by saying, let's try and contact the Flash first. It's just possible he was put out of the way because he had some special knowledge. So
now they start thinking
Hal
about the
has
Flash.
wondered what's going on. Mm-hmm. Bending all their willpower and mental energy into their search, the Justice League members are soon rewarded with a vision of the Barry Allen Flash. And Barry says,
I'm trapped myself, fellow members, but you've been up against villains from a second Earth vibrating close to our own. Listen.
After Flash relates what's happened to him and to his companion Flash and explains about the twin Earths. Oh, this is good. Yep.
John says, what can we do, Flash? Isn't there some way out of this predicament? And which Barry responds, yes, use the crystal ball to summon the Justice Society to Earth 1. They won't be bound by the magic that hampers you.
And the image of Flash fades out and the Justice League seance brings into view the Justice Society of America. So that's basically, we're now at the point of the opening splash page in the cover. Within moments, the images of the Justice Society are materialised on Earth 1, and an exciting historical meeting takes place between the Justice League and Justice Society.
And this panel's also going to go up in the social medias because it's fantastic.
It's a beauty. So we see, from left to right, we have Green Arrow shaking hands with our man.
We have the two Green Lanterns meeting.
For the first time.
Yes.
Yeah. Batman and Superman and Martian Manhunter crowding around Dr. Fate. Both Atoms shaking hands.
Which is great. You've got Al right at the front, bending right over,
and
shaking Ray's hands.
Ray is still shrunk down. I'm miming Ray being small by holding two fingers up here. I hope you appreciate that, viewers.
His usual 6-inch height.
Yep. Yeah. And Dr. Fate, in conversation with Superman, says,
we've just been issued a challenge by your enemies, Kronos, Dr. Alchemy, and Felix Faust. With a spell, I'll send you into our Earth to fight them.
And Hawkman says,
well, we stay here to fight our foes, the Icicle, Fiddler, and the Wizards.
And so we move on to the final page of part 1, and the caption reads, with the magical help of Dr. Fate, the Justice League is shifted to the headquarters of the Justice Society, and we see that right enough. And while on Earth 1, the Justice Society easily pierces the magical barrier that cannot hold them, because it was not directed against their persons. We see our man, Dr. Fate, Black Canary, Hawkman, and the Atom, a sort of deserty sort of area. Mm-hmm. And then finally, on a dual assignment in the misty borderlands between the two Earths, the two Green Lanterns race to free the imprisoned Flashes. Definitely not the end. The startling, stupendous climax of this story, in which the superheroes of the Justice League team up with their alter egos, the Justice Society, will appear in the next issue. So there we have it.
Yeah. So let's take a look at some reader reaction to Justice League of America.
I'm going to have to pause for a moment, honestly, though, because it's quite epic, isn't it?
It's very epic.
Very exciting.
We've heard a reaction. Let's hear what they thought at the time.
Yeah, so there's about half a dozen letters or so, including a couple from, let's be honest, some very important people.
Yes, absolutely. So let's jump straight in. Dear Editor, here's wishing you many bouquets and congratulations for the August issue's Crisis on Earth 1. Even as only the first half of a story, it surpassed all of your past issues. I have never seen a finer or more exciting panel in all comicdom, with the exception of the JLA bursting forth from their bottle prisons in 1 hour to Doomsday, and the last panel on page 24, where the Justice League and Justice Society members are introducing each other. What a glorious mass of superhumanity! I especially got a chuckle out of the two Atoms, Atom 2 bending down to the hand of Atom 1, and the two Green Lanterns comparing notes on their power rings.
That's interesting, their Atom 2 bending down to the hand of Atom 1, so that's that must be like an Earth allocation type sort of situation. They're counting Al-Pat as Atom 2, when really he'd be Atom 1, wouldn't he?
Technically, yes.
Yeah, anyway.
I especially like Dr. Fate. He seems to have the same aura of all-powerful leader and protector about him that Superman has. And artist Mike Sekowsky did such a magnificent job on him that it's a wonder Superman doesn't feel slighted. So once again, bouquets, wine and roses to all, especially Mike Sikowski. It takes courage to take on a story that boasts 16 superheroes and 6 supervillains, and it takes talent to handle them as beautifully as he did. And this is from a man who will know all about drawing such a massive cast of characters, because this is from Dave Cockrum. Who went on to fame drawing such series as Legion of Superheroes and X-Men.
Yep, 2 runs in X-Men. And it's interesting, Dave's address here is Southern Illinois University, Abbott Hall, 116, Thompson Point, Carbondale, Illinois. Written whilst he was doing his studies.
Possibly studying to be an artist.
Amazing. Dave Corcoran did an excellent big run on the Legion of Superheroes in the early 70s, but then after that, next level when he moved to Marvel and worked on the X-Men, the all-new X-Men, because he created Nightcrawler and Storm and Colossus.
Yeah.
And the characters that are familiar even to the most casual sort of comic fan. Pretty sure even my mum would know who they are. It's pretty cool. It's nice to see the sort of evidence of him as a fan. I mean, his work in Legion is stunning. And this is pretty nice. So the editorial reply to this then. The above communication is typical of the rave reports received on Crisis on Earth 1. Because of space limitations, we shall refrain from tacking on our customary comments to each of the remaining letters. For how many different ways can we acknowledge overwhelming praise, and shall simply devote the rest of this department to extracted comments from other readers. So, the next letter then is from Dom Lazars. That rings a bell. Have we had one from him before?
The name's familiar, but I don't think we've had a letter from him before.
Dear editor, if there was ever a story that deserved 2 issues, Crisis on Earth 1 is it. Many readers will probably criticise the story's continuation into the follow-up issue. They seem to forget that fitting a 22-character story within 25 pages is almost impossible. So I conclude that you were justified in splitting up the epic in order to make it more interesting and less cramped. After all, we're really getting 2 stories, one on the Justice League and another featuring the Justice Society. Roosevelt Avenue, Flushing, New York.
Excellent. The next letter is from Ben Orr from Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, let's just spell that out. Bendor. Now, he's obviously a Daxamite, isn't he?
Yeah, maybe he was created by Dave Cockrum.
It's possible.
He says, Dear editor, the cover of the August JLA set the excellent standards which were followed throughout the remainder of your fine comic. The very shield title of the magazine was a compliment to the cover, but the rest was a study in sheer genius. Your cover artist not only shone in the detail and colour of the picture, the very positioning of both the JLA and JSA was a stroke of master artistry. Not even the presence of 14 superheroes could make this cover look crowded, a plague that befalls many of your others. Even the background added to the conformation and general appearance of the scene, and for once the title boxes also were pleasing to look at. Yes, your cover alone shows why JLA is the best entry carrying the DC silks.
Superb. And the next one is from our old pal Roy Thomas.
Yes,
which is
Roy
nice.
the Boy Thomas.
Roy the Boy. I mean, I can imagine Roy being absolutely, losing his nut. I can imagine him seeing the cover in the drugstore or wherever on the newsstand and just being like,
the 7-11.
Oh, wow. So Roy, who at this point was at 307 Greensferry Road, Jackson. Dear editor, the choices of the roll call of the Justice Society were excellent. Green Lantern, Flash, Atom and Hawkman were of course natural choices. Black Canary was a better choice than having another and quite superfluous Wonder Woman. Okay, harsh. And Dr. Fate and Hourman were well handled, especially visually. In fact, I'm confident that a large number of readers will want to see more of Dr. Fate in particular. Magic is one of the few possible superpowers not used today by a costume hero of the standard type. Which is an excellent point. I mean, when was Doctor Strange created?
Offhand. But yeah, certainly there's not really anyone in the DC stable at the current time
absolutely.
that we were using.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So and it's interesting that Roy highlights Dr. Fate and Hourman together there. Yeah, bear that in mind for future listening.
Yes, absolutely. The next letter is from the Green Grass of Home, Tom Jones himself.
Tom Jones. Fantastic.
Yeah, my oh my Delilah. And Tom writes to say, shall I do it in Tom Jones' voice?
He says, Dear editor, what's new, Pussycat? No, yeah, okay. Are you right? Yeah, I'm actually going to do this now. Right, okay. That's fine.
Dear editor. From the villainy standpoint, Crisis on Earth 1 proved superb. Felix Faust was most effective. Faust's first Jerry appearance, at least to this reader, wasn't quite as spectacular as his second appearance. He's now quite the goodie as Batmanism goes, and did a bang-up job in the Civic Tale. Dr. Alchemy was another beaut. He used his Master Transformer to perfection and represented his Earth in fine fashion. Kronos was the bestest of the three, and I do mean bestest. His costume is still the most flashy in existence, and he's still champ when it comes to timely comments. The other Earth villains did commendable jobs too, but their efforts weren't up to those of our Earth.
You sound like Denzel from Absolutely.
That's Tom Jones from Aberdeen. I don't know.
MD, what state's that going to be? No idea. Please let us know.
Apologies to Sir Tom Jones,
Yes.
the singer, and Tom Jones, the writer of this letter.
Yeah. Final letter is from Jim Harmon of 116 and a quarter, Esbonny Bray Street. Jim says, Dear Editor, to me the August JLA seems to be the greatest single issue of a comic magazine ever published. For a number of years, comic magazines got away from the perfect expression of the comic medium where anything could happen. Now, since you revived The Flash, the comics have begun to present stories I dreamed of reading as a boy. The Justice Society, Justice League story seems almost too good to be true, something the fans would love to see, but something you've been hesitant to publish for some obscure reason. Gardner Fox's script was marvellous, his skill at condensing plot and situation fabulous. Mike Sikowski did an almost impossible job of catching something of the spark and flavour of 22 costume characters. I'm sure if Sikowski could be given the time and budget for a terrifically complex job like this, his work could be unsurpassed. And that's probably fair. I mean, I've you know, as we talk about these two issues, I'm a little bit critical of Mike at various points, and you know, and
That's
that's
a tough job. Nobody else is doing it.
yeah. I mean, at the time, nowadays we're sort of used to people like George Perez, even Dave Cockrum. You know,
Absolutely, yeah.
capably sort of handling sort of large casts. I mean, again, that letter really emphasises just how exciting this must have been at the time.
Must have been, because pretty much everyone on this letter's page counted the number of characters. Yeah. they all
I know.
state that.
I mean, imagine sitting down with, like, you know, issue 5 of Crisis and everything else and trying to count how many people are in it. You'd go mental.
Yeah.
But that we'll maybe do that when we get there.
That was the letter reaction. What's your reaction to this story? Please get in touch with us.
Yep.
You can send us an email at theearth2podcast@gmail.com. You make sure you follow us on Facebook and on Instagram. We always post up pictures and panels from each issue, so follow us there if you don't already. It's at the Earth2 Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at podcast_Earth2. And again, you get all the up-to-date information right there. So there we go.
Yep.
Thanks again for joining us
Yeah,
on this
definitely.
journey. Looking forward to
Absolutely.
part
So,
2.
yeah, part 2 belong before you know it.
And we're going to talk to you next time on
The
the Earth2 Podcast.
Transmatter cube activated. Return coordinates set for Earth Prime.
I'm Tom Jones, you'll see.